Hello everyone, this is Clossi, and today we're going to start our first video in our 9Q to 5Q series. In this series, we are going to help all of you single-digit Qs that just got to it. You can be 10Q, 11Q, trying to get to single-digit Q, or you can be 9Q, 8Q, 7Q, trying to just take that next step, and we're going to hopefully help you guys get to 5Q. So the first thing we're going to do is, in this video, is talk about the mindset that you need when you go into your games, the speed at which you're playing, and reading. Reading is going to be the reading and the speed actually are going to be the two biggest things that I saw that when I was researching 9Q to 7Q games, the things that you guys need to work on. The biggest thing that I saw was actually reading and speed, how fast you're playing and how deep you're reading. All right, so first things first, let's talk about our mindset. The mindset of playing a game. I really want to emphasize that you guys need to play more games, or at least the average person. I don't know how many games everyone plays, but the average person needs to play more games. The way you do this is a couple of reasons. The first thing that I've noticed many people do is they don't play games because they're afraid of losing or they don't like losing. Well, first you got to change your mindset on that. The biggest thing about playing games that I've seen is you want to go in with an open mind. You don't mind if you lose, you don't mind if you win, but you want to go in just with the goal of trying your best and to improve. And so that way you can play more games so you don't have to worry about if you're going to be in a bad mood afterwards or if you're going to be exhausted because you just push yourself to your limits. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just do your best and just play a game at the same mental capacity, I guess. Don't overexhaust yourself. Don't take too long or anything like that. Just play your best and don't worry about winning or losing. Just do your best. The reason that's important is because if you go into a game and you're not playing with the intent to improve or you're not playing your best and you're just clicking stones on the board, that will not help your Go career. Because, for an example, on Taijom, I've seen 15 Qs have played 10,000 games. And that to me just doesn't make any sense. If you've played 10,000 games, you should be like a Dawn level or something, or you should be much stronger than 15Q in my opinion. What that means is they play a lot of blitz and they just click stones on the board. They don't study, they don't do any research, they don't review the games, and they just don't care. So I definitely want you guys to care more about the quality of your games, but also increase the quantity and don't worry about losing. Losing is like part of the game. Losing is actually going to be more beneficial to you than winning in the long run if you want to improve your rank. So don't worry about losing and try to play more games. I recommend about 10 to 20 games a week if you can, in addition to studying. If you can't, just do as many as you can in your free time, but just try to get as many games as you can and just to improve your mindset that says I'm just going to do my best for each of these games and just go from there. And just don't worry about losing because you're supposed to lose at least like half the time, right? So half of your games should be losses. And if you're improving, sometimes a little bit more than half your games should be losses. So it's okay. Losing is actually going to be more beneficial to you in the long run. All right, so now we're going to get into our speed. The speed, what I mean by this is everyone is playing way too quickly, guys. You guys are playing way too fast. I highly recommend slowing down and using your time a lot more. The reason I say this is because if you're playing too fast, that means you're not reading things through, you're not thinking things through, you're not checking things before you play it. So the way you can tell if you're playing too fast is if you're finishing an entire game and never making it to Bioyomi. You should be in Bioyomi and you should have used your main time for 10 to 15 minute games. You should have used your main time by move like 100 to like 130. And if you have like 20-30 minute games, by move 100 to 150, you guys should be in Bioyomi. Because if you're not using your main time, if you're trying to make it stretch the entire game, that means your average spot per move is really, really small, like within a few seconds. I think we calculated it once for some games, like a 25-minute game. And if you stretch it for the entire game, you're probably going to get like 5 or 6 seconds per move. I mean, you can do the math on your own, but you'll see that it's very, very small amount of time that you put on each move. So I highly recommend slowing down and using your main time. Your time is meant to be used, not stretched. You want to use it and think about stuff. Now in Bioyomi, I'm sure many of you are scared of Bioyomi. Don't be scared of Bioyomi. You want to use your Bioyomi, because in Bioyomi you're likely thinking you're playing quickly, but actually you're probably playing just as fast as you were like in your main time. If you're if you get to Bioyomi at the very end of the game or something, then you're probably gonna your average thought is actually going to be about the same. For some people, Bioyomi actually makes them think more because then they want to utilize the time as much as possible each period. I'm like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to use your main time as much as possible, and then you use Bioyomi. You're supposed to use 20 to 25 seconds every single move. You're supposed to use all those periods. It's an infinite amount of periods as long as you don't go over 30 seconds. So use it. You have 20 to 25 seconds for every single period or every single move. So you want to use that. You want to make sure that you don't try to play a move in 5 seconds. If you find yourself playing moves within 5 seconds of Bioyomi and you say, oh, well, I've already read this out, or well, this is an Atari. Then read other stuff, or see what it's going to happen in 3 to 5 moves from now. So I highly recommend that you use your time. Use all of your main time if you can by move 100 to 150, because that's usually the end game will usually start within 100 to 150, and your middle game is when you really want to use your time to the you want to use the most of your time in the middle game. And a little tip for biomemory periods: if you have a life and death situation, you can sacrifice 1 period for the life and death situation, or you can sacrifice 1 period to count the board, to understand the board. So if you want to do that, I highly recommend doing that. Remember that sacrificing a period is also a skill. You can also do that and tell yourself when you're going to do that, or have yourself have certain situations where you would want to sacrifice a period. For example, if it's a life and death problem, it's okay to take longer than 30 seconds to read it. It's very, very important. It might be game changing. Well, that would be an ideal time to sacrifice a period. Or maybe you just finish a fight and you're getting back to global thinking, you're not sure what to do. Well, then sacrifice 1 period to understand the entire board and count it and just completely understand what the rest of the game, what's happening on the board, so that way you can make proper decisions. That's also perfectly fine. So you want to use 20 to 25 seconds every period, and then you want to have a mental note of when you're going to use, or when it's okay to use and sacrifice 1 of your periods. You have multiple of them. You want to be able to sacrifice it at certain situations, and some of those I recommend is life and death. All right, now we get into reading. Reading, guys, the biggest mistake that I've seen, and I think part of it's speed, because you're playing too fast, you're not reading deeply. But reading at the level, out of the games that I've researched, the reading's way, way, way too shallow, and I don't want to say that to be mean, but I want to put emphasis on the fact that you guys need to think through your moves. I've seen so many examples where you played a move, or you played a Hane or a Knight's move, and it just immediately gets cut, and then the position's just destroyed, and you lose control of the situation. You should always be reading your cuts before they happen. And with that being said, you should be reading your opponent's cuts before you cut. You should know if that cut's going to be good for you or bad for you, or how that cut's going to play out before you play it. So before you cut your opponent, or before you play a move that can be cut, you should always read these things out. Additionally, you are not. I want you guys to start reading in the fights and the opening. I want you guys to start reading a lot more. You should be reading 3 to 5 moves deep at least. And what I mean by this is, let me explain what I mean by 3 to 5 moves. It means you read black, white, black. So 3 moves. And if you want to read 5 moves, black, white, black, white, black. And that's 5 moves deep. And I don't mean just 3 moves and 5 moves total. I mean that many moves deep. What that means is, you play black and then white and then black, and you say, okay, what if white plays this other move? Then you play black, white, black, and you check all the possible responses that you think are possible for your opponent in response to this move. So that means you read it and you play black, white, black, and you read the branches. And so sometimes 3 moves deep can lead up to 9 moves or even 12 moves deep. And when you get into 5 moves, you can read 15 to 25 to even 30 or 35 moves deep. Not in a straight branch, not in a single branch or a straight line, but rather you read 5 moves, then you read your opponent's responses and different branches of the variations, and you read all the variations to completely understand what possible next 5 moves will happen. And that's just 5 moves deep. Pros can read like 10 to 15 moves deep and understand all the branches possible. And that's how you read more than 100 moves or 150 moves at a time, because pros definitely read more than 100 moves all the time. They just do. It's just way too hard to be a pro and not read 100 moves. But that doesn't mean they read 100 moves straight. It means they read like 10 to 15 moves deep, and they understand every variation in that 10 to 15 moves. I want you guys to really start practicing this. Read 3 moves deep, and then work on reading 5 moves deep. If you can read 5 moves deep and read all the branches, especially in the contact fights or the middle game fights in general, if you can read 5 moves deep and understand all the branches, then it'll really, really, really improve your middle game. And I think it'll really help you guys move up. And one last thing, well, I guess 2 more things. One is to pay very close attention in the contact fights to liberties and cuts that are going to come about 3 moves from now and 5 moves from now. So the liberties and cuts are always, always, always important. As a beginner, the liberties and cuts on that turn is what you want to look for and you understand. As you get stronger, the liberties and cuts in the future that are going to come, that you're setting up for, those are the ones you really want to pay close attention to as well. I cannot emphasize enough how important liberties and cuts are in the middle game. Just don't underestimate those guys. You should be reading the liberties and cuts that are to come. That means the liberties you have 3 moves from now, the liberties you have 5 moves from now, or the cuts you have 3 moves from now or 5 moves from now. And the last thing I want to say, if you want to really improve your reading, is if you're going to read 3 to 5 moves deep, but also give yourself more than just 1 option to read every turn. At minimum, I would say 2 options or 3 options. 2 options if it's like an Atari or something, like can you Tanuki or should you respond? And 3 options if you are in an average situation. Now, for an open situation, I would recommend as many as 5 options. I highly recommend reading 3 to 5 moves deep, And then also reading at least 2 to 3 options starting out, and then eventually increase your options to like 4 or 5 options every single turn. And then just try to do it every single day sorry, try to do it every single turn, and just get yourself more options. Give yourself more options and read those options as deep as possible. All right, so in conclusion here, we have the mindset. You want to go in with an open mind saying, I'm just going to do my best, and I don't care if I lose, and then let yourself play more games. You also want to work on your speed. You want to use your time more. You want to use your time and use your main time much more quickly, and then use your Baoyami, 20 to 25 seconds almost every single turn if you can. Then work on the reading. Read 3 to 5 moves deep, and try to give yourself more than just one option per turn. And then also pay special close attention to the liberties and cuts. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to come back and check out the next videos in this 9Q to 5Q series. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.